900,000 Americans are living in RVs right now, not on vacation, not chasing sunsets on Route 66, not filming travel content for Instagram. They are sleeping in parking lots, in rest stops, in the back corners of Walmart, where the lights don't quite reach. They are waking up before dawn to drive somewhere private enough to change clothes before work. They are raising children who do their homework by the glow of a phone hotspot because the campground Wi-Fi cuts out after 9. This is not a lifestyle. This is not a choice, most of them made freely. This is what survival looks like in 2026, when the math stopped working, and the only roof some people could still afford had wheels underneath it. Most people see an RV and think freedom, open road, retirement, craft beer, and national parks. That picture is almost never how it happens. Linda is 58 years old. She worked for the same insurance company for 19 years. She was the person who remembered everyone's birthday, the one who stayed late when there was a deadline. She had a small apartment in Phoenix, not fancy, but hers. She had a cat named Rosie. She had a routine that felt, for a long time, like enough. Then she got sick. It was not a dramatic illness. It was a disc in her lower back, the kind of thing that happens to people who sit at a desk for 2 decades. Surgery, physical therapy, 6 weeks off work. And when she came back, her position had been restructured. The company called it a workforce optimization. She called it the moment everything started to fall. The medical bills came to $34,000 after insurance. She paid what she could. Then she couldn't. She dipped into savings to cover rent. Then her credit score dropped. Then the apartment complex she wanted to move into cheaper, smaller, ran a background check and saw the debt and turned her down. She has a 2001 Coachman RV now. She parks it outside the grocery store where she works part-time. Every morning, she walks inside, uses the employee bathroom to wash her face and fix her hair, and then she goes out on the floor and helps customers find what they need. Her co-workers don't know. She has made sure of that. Here is what most people get wrong about this crisis. They imagine it happening to people who made bad decisions, people who didn't save, people who weren't careful. And sometimes that story is true, but most of the time, the people living in RVs worked. They paid their bills. They showed up. They did exactly what the system told them to do. And the system still failed them. Not because they were weak, but because the gap between what things cost and what people earn has become so wide that one event, one surgery, one layoff, one landlord selling a property can erase everything a person built over years. That is the part nobody wants to say out loud, because it means the problem is not about individual failure. It means the floor beneath millions of Americans is thinner than anyone has been willing to admit. Let's talk about the math. In 2026, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in America is roughly $1,650 a month. In cities like Phoenix, Denver, Atlanta, Austin, cities where people go to find work, it runs closer to $1,900 to $2,200. That is before utilities, before the deposit, before the application fees that some landlords charge just to consider you. The federal minimum wage has not meaningfully moved. Most hourly workers in low-income jobs earn somewhere between $14 and $18 an hour, depending on the state. Work 40 hours a week at $16 an hour, and you bring home roughly $2,200 a month after taxes. Pay $1,650 in rent, and you have $550 left for food, car insurance, gas, phone, health insurance, if you have it, anything unexpected. The math does not work. It has not worked for a long time, but for years, people managed because a partner helped, because a parent helped, Because they lived with someone else. Because they found a cheaper place before the cheaper places disappeared, now they are running out of those options. And the RV is what's left. A decent used RV can be bought for $5,000 to $15,000. Compared to first month, last month, and a security deposit on an apartment, which in many cities now runs $5,000 to $8,000. Before you even move in, the math of the RV starts to make a different kind of sense. A painful, desperate, no one planned for this sense, but sense nonetheless. Marcus is 42. He does concrete work. He has worked with his hands since he was 19, and he is good at it. He does not complain about the job. He is the kind of man who goes to work when he's sick, because missing a shift is missing rent. His wife, Janelle, works at a daycare. They have 2 kids, a 12-year-old named Deshawn and a 9-year-old named Amara. Last year, the family they rented from sold the house. The new owner wanted to renovate and rent at a higher rate. Marcus and Janelle had 60 days to find something else. They looked at 37 places. They could not afford any of them. Their combined income was about $62,000 a year. Most landlords wanted proof of income 3 times the monthly rent. At $1,800 a month, that meant they needed to show $64,800 in annual income combined just to be considered, before application fees, before competition from higher earners, before the waiting lists. They bought a 2 8-foot travel trailer. They found a campground in the county that allows extended stays. Deshawn and Amara go to school from there. Amara has never told her friends where she lives. When her class does a project about home, draw your house, describe your neighborhood, she draws a house with a yard and a tree. Not because she doesn't understand the truth, but because she understands it too well. That is what the crisis looks like at 9 years old. Before we go further, what part of this surprised you most so far? Tell me in the comments below, because I have noticed that different people notice different parts of the same crisis. Some people are shocked by the cost numbers. Some people are shocked by the children. Some people recognize someone they know. Whatever it was, I want to hear it. And if this video is helping you understand the scale of what's happening, a like helps it reach more people who need to see it. The reason this crisis stays invisible is not because it is small, it is because it is quiet. The people living in RVs are not, by and large, people who look like what most Americans picture when they hear the word homeless. They shower at truck stops and gym memberships. They wear clean clothes to work. They answer emails. They send their kids to school. They keep the vehicle maintained, because without it, everything falls apart. They have learned to perform normalcy with extraordinary precision. A man named Raymond, 61, former logistics manager, laid off when the company moved its distribution center, parks his RV 2 streets behind the office building, where he now works as a contractor. He wears a tie. He is in meetings. He shakes hands and talks about quarterly projections. At 6:30 p.m., he drives to a spot near a park, reads for an hour, and goes to sleep. He has not told anyone, not his adult children, not his former colleagues. He calls his situation a transition period because that framing keeps it from being something he cannot come back from. An older couple, David and Carol, 67 and 64, from Ohio, sold their house 4 years ago thinking they would downsize into something cheaper. They had savings. They had David's pension, which had been partially cut when the manufacturing company restructured. They had Social Security, which does not go as far as the brochure implied. They could not find a rental they could afford that would also accept 2 adults on fixed income with a dog. Every application came back declined. Their savings ran lower. A used Class C motorhome became the answer they had not planned for. David calls it full timing. He says it like it is a decision they made. But his hands shake a little when he says it. And Carol, when she thinks no one is watching, looks out the windshield at whatever parking lot they're in with an expression that is very far from adventure. Here is how the trap closes. It does not happen all at once. It happens one locked door at a time. A person misses one rent payment because of a medical bill. That bill goes to collections. Collections damages the credit score. A damaged credit score disqualifies them from most apartment applications. Without a permanent address, some states make it harder to maintain a driver's license, harder to receive certain benefits, harder to open certain bank accounts. Some employers run credit checks for jobs that involve financial responsibility, and the person applying was only in debt because the system didn't pay them enough to stay out of it. Meanwhile, the RV needs maintenance. An engine problem costs $800. A tire blowout costs $400. A transmission repair can cost $3,000. When those expenses come, and they always come, there is no cushion. There is only the question of whether to eat or whether to keep the vehicle running. And the vehicle is the home, so the vehicle wins, but the debt grows, and the next time something breaks, the hole is deeper. A person who tries to rent a storage unit for the things that won't fit in the RV finds that storage fees compound quickly. A unit that costs $80 a month becomes $500 in debt after a bad stretch and a late fee. Late fees become liens. Liens become court dates. Court dates become missed work. Missed work becomes less income, and the cycle tightens. This was not one bad decision. This was a system where every available option had already become too expensive. It would be easy, here, to look for someone to blame. A politician, a company, a specific policy. The harder truth is that the villain in this story does not have a face. It is the rental market that now prices based on what investors need to earn, not what workers can afford to pay. It is the healthcare system, where one serious illness can cost more than 2 years of salary. It is the wage structure that has not kept pace with the cost of housing for 20 years. It is the zoning laws that prevent new, affordable units from being built in the places where the jobs actually are. It is the credit system that punishes people for being poor by making it harder and more expensive to stop being poor. It is the slow, institutional indifference that treats 900,000 people sleeping in vehicles as a footnote, something acknowledged in a policy paper, something discussed in a committee, something that nobody is in a hurry to actually fix because the people most affected don't have lobbyists. The problem is not disappearing. It is moving somewhere easier to ignore. There is a larger question underneath all of this, and it is worth sitting with. For most of the 20th century, the unspoken agreement in America was this: if you work hard, if you show up, if you stay out of trouble, you will have a place to live, not a mansion. Not luxury, but a place. Stable enough to raise kids, stable enough to get old, stable enough to have an address, which is the minimum the system requires to participate in the system. That agreement has quietly broken down. And most people have not noticed because the breakdown is happening to people who are very good at hiding it. Linda is still in that grocery store, ringing up other people's food, smiling, asking how their day is going, carrying the knowledge that tonight she will drive to the lot behind the strip mall and sleep in a vehicle that is also her closet, her kitchen, and the only thing standing between her and something that would be much harder to describe without shame. Marcus and Janelle are still working. Their kids are still in school. Deshaun, 12, has started helping his dad with little repairs on the trailer, patching the seam on the roof where water got in last winter. He does it without being asked. He knows they cannot afford for things to go wrong. David and Carol are parked right now somewhere in New Mexico. They have a routine: farmers market on Saturdays, reading in the evenings, calling their grandchildren on Sunday. They have found small moments of peace inside a situation that was never supposed to be their retirement. They are not broken. They are not lazy. They are not failed characters in some cautionary tale. They are Americans, working Americans, and the distance between their lives and yours may be shorter than you think. The question is not whether this is happening. 900,000 people is not a rounding error. It is a city larger than San Francisco. It is more people than live in the entire state of Montana. It is not fringe. It is not extreme. It is one of the largest quiet crises playing out in plain sight in this country right now. The question is, what we decide this means. Because there is a version of this story where we watch it long enough that it becomes normal, where we see the RVs in the parking lot and our minds just register them as background, where we stop asking who is inside and why, because asking is uncomfortable and there are other things to think about. And once a society gets comfortable with that, once the working poor, living in vehicles, becomes just part of the scenery, the crisis is no longer hidden. It has become acceptable. And that may be the most dangerous threshold of all. Not the moment things get bad, but the moment we stop being surprised. If someone in your life is going through something like this, or if you felt something watching this video that you haven't quite put into words yet, I want to hear from you in the comments. This kind of story only stays visible if people keep talking about it. And if you want to understand more about the systems underneath stories like this, housing costs, wage stagnation, what happens to people at the edges of the economy, I will keep making these. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.